3, 2. Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and WNST.net. We are Baltimore Positive. We're at State Fair in Catonsville. I would hold up coffee or water or drinks, but we're not allowing drinks here because Damien O'Doherty has broken the rules. And Don Moeller is a longtime lawless rule breaker here in Catonsville.
Move my water.
Move your water out of here. We welcome you back at it. Segment number 2. It is episode number 4. Damien is KO Public Affairs. And, Don, we're talking Baltimore Positive. I know, you're raring to go now that we've gotten to know Damien.
We left off. We talk. I will tell one quick Damien story though while we've got him.
You don't know which one this is.
People often ask how I got to Baltimore County government and working for Jim Smith. So this was back, hard to believe, 16 years ago. I get asked to come over and maybe join the Smith administration, and Damien is running the interview team. And at one point I said, can you just make it clear to me what you expect me to do? And Damien grabs a napkin and he scribbles and he throws the napkin at me. He says, make my job easier. That was the job description. Can you just make my job easier?
You know what?
Damien hired me
but you
for
made
the Smith administration.
my county
When
the
I
greatest.
think of any time I've ever been in distress around many employees that I've had that I no longer have, right, when I actually ran something, that would be I'm at a Raven event and there's 10,000 Raven fans and there's beer and there's girls and there's parties and there's what can I do to help you? Make my life easier.
Well,
it's an old political trick to make people think like they had something. They all know I needed some adult supervision. That's why Don got the job, right?
All right.
So now
he's my swing coach.
Let's talk about fixing Baltimore. Let's do that.
Let's talk about Baltimore. We have themes developing, and we talk about those themes. But let's start by talking, and you've lived it, you breathed it, you love it. What are the assets? When you go out, Damien, you go to the West Coast, you go to the middle of the country, you're talking Baltimore, you're working for a business. How do you pitch
Well, you're
Baltimore?
trying to get a business to come to Baltimore,
How do you
as an
pitch
example.
I say it's the last city on the East Coast that has a real bohemian vibe in the sense that there are people of all walks of life. It's not the, San Francisco that has, 1,300 billionaires or some number like that. There are people of all kinds here. It's an original port city. The port is what made the city. It today is an amazing resource. Michael Phelps should be hired by the Port of Baltimore to go all around the world to remind people that the center of excellence in commerce is right here in Baltimore. Our markets were the original places, all the Lexington Market, Cross Street Market, all these 5 public markets were the original town squares. They're hundreds of years old. You want to know a good story? They were a wreck a couple of years ago. Now Broadway Market in Fells Point, Alex Smith and Atlas, his group, that thing's going off the charts. Arsh Murmuran at Cross Street Market has torn the cover off the ball.
That's my neighborhood.
We just spoke to Arsh.
So these are the oldest institutions in the city that are now really, I think, some of the brightest lights of the city. And that's a good sign.
Hub,
right.
Sure.
Those are hubs.
Well, and we talk about it, and we're going to talk about it every time we do Baltimore Positive. And your brother certainly knows this as much as any. Damien's brother, Ryan, is very involved, communications director, I believe, at Mercy. Is that his title?
Yeah.
He does a million things there.
Head of
He's
external
at Mercy,
affairs.
but very much involved in the healthcare industry. But we've got these incredible hospitals in the city. Unbelievable universities.
Well, you've had your daughter. You want to tell your daughter's leukemia story while I tell my wife's? I mean, Johns Hopkins has saved my wife's life twice. How about you?
That is a Baltimore positive story. and my grandson. We all three have Baltimore positive stories.
Yeah, when Avi was when she was diagnosed with leukemia, my wife looked at me and
said, "What year is this? Give me a time frame on this."
I would say 2011, 2012.
She was 2?
She's 2.5, yeah.
Avi's saying it's 2012. She's correcting us. She's our producer. It was 2012.
Avi, come up here for a second. I want to get you in the shot. Come on around the backside here. Tell Avi's story, because Avi's got an incredible – people love my wife's story.
We were at
this young lady's – come into the middle here.
We were at Shawan Downs. And
the future – while he's talking about Shawan Downs, I want you to see the future Mrs. Jake Moeller.
I
Here
told
she
you.
is,
And look
Mrs.
at it. He's
O'Doherty.
arranging marriages.
Although
Yeah.
she's going to go by, she's already informed me, it's not going to be A.V. Moeller. It's going to be A.V. O'Doherty.
Just
she
don't
is a
live in
liberated,
Alabama, whatever
she's
you
a
do,
liberated woman.
Sing no Leonard Skinner songs. Okay, so give some stories here.
No, just I came home from running in Towson, was doing my little run, and I came back, and the room seemed really yellow, and my wife just said, Avie seems really sick, so we took her to Green Spring Station, which is an amazing place, very accessible. The Hopkins place there, they swabbed her tongue. They thought it was strep throat, but then it bled. They tested it. We got a call over the weekend that we missed. Monday, I think we got a call, and they said, hey, my wife said, we got to take her down to Hopkins. They think she might have leukemia. So that was, and I called my best friend Martin Knott, who's been through cancer, has had a successful stem cell surgery.
He's another miracle, Martin
Yeah,
Knott.
I mean, and he sort of walked me through the whole thing, and calmed me down, and for a little while. But yeah, so that's my story. Your story is much more significant. You've got a
Look at this girl here, man. She came to our event in 2015. You were 5 then or 6 then, maybe? It was 4 years ago, so you were 5 at the time. For There Goes My Hero, everything we do here for blood cancer and for the DKMS saved my wife's life. But we have a real miracle here, and this is a Baltimore positive miracle, right?
That's it.
Baltimore hospitals.
I mean, when
That's
you
right.
so go ahead, Miss
I have
Avie.
a story.
Go ahead.
So, since they were always kids, they would have medicine, and it would hurt.
Here, I'm going to put my headset on her. Hold on.
That's right.
This is
Let's
gonna be better.
fix
Hold on.
Avie up here.
There we go. There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
So, at the hospital, there was always medicine, and it tasted disgusting. So, kids would be yelling for anything they want, and one kid next to me was yelling for taco meat. Just taco meat.
great story.
And so, I was yelling for avocado sushi.
From where? San Sushi.
Sushis.
From
San
San
Sushi
Sushi.
in
There you
Towson.
go.
There's a nice plug, man.
But you
good, huh?
look at Avie O'Doherty. You look at your wife Jennifer. You look at my grandson Jake. All with remarkable medical treatment at Hopkins. And you go through the other great hospitals. You can just go down the list. University of Maryland, Mercy. You just keep going. So we start. I don't care what article you read about cities across the country. You talk about resources. And you look at this city, arts and cultural institutions,
Right.
the universities,
Frank Zappa.
the hospitals, the home of Frank Zappa, the port. You got a deep love for the port and the success of the port. There's no reason with the right leadership and these assets that Baltimore's best and brightest days aren't ahead of it. They absolutely are.
Yeah, and they might be happening right now with just a very significant crime problem, some significant issues in governance. Those are all things, if you're in corporate America and something terrible happens or people do the wrong things, make bad judgments.
fix 'em.
You go in and fix them.
You don't quit.
You don't look back and blame and have 4 years of who did what. It doesn't matter.
All right, so let's talk about the mayor and and elections and where you are in the narrative and the story 16 months from now, okay? The next mayor needs to be a cheerleader,
That's right.
a marketer, a manager, whistle clean on a reform, right?
That's right.
Somebody that needs to be looking at black and white and east and west and how to get the counties back into the city. Somebody that can get along with the governor. Somebody that can figure out the sports issues we have here. I know they always tell me to stick to sports. It's Preakness week, right? The Orioles have no one coming, and maybe somebody's coming to take them away. The Ravens have half a franchise at this point because we have empty seats, right? So these are issues, and we've invested a lot in that. We've invested in the baseball team.
And
Look,
Nestor
what you're
knows
sa-
I'm always going to push back on some of the sports analogies, and he knows this is what makes this fun. When he says the Ravens are half a franchise, I have no idea what he's talking about. And that's why we have this little
Because they
back
have empty
and
skyboxes
forth.
and empty seats,
Yeah.
and they have radio ads looking to sell
Right,
tickets.
that's right.
They are not what they once were financially. Financially, it takes Leg Masons
But look
and
at the
Crown
market.
Centrals and airlines.
There you go.
It takes all of that to fund 2 sports franchises in a market that has 4, if not 5, if you count the DC United, 8 or 9 if you count Georgetown, Maryland, George Mason, Virginia universities that there's a reason Paul Tagliabue, and I'm going to continue to say this, Paul Tagliabue told us to build a museum. We were all pissed off about it. I'm still pissed off about it. 30 years later, Paul Tagliabue said, that's a one-sport town, and the Orioles own that town, and it probably as it should be. Now we have the Nationals in D.C. 4 teams 38 miles to the south, 4 teams and powerhouse teams 85 miles to the north, right? Literally, Baltimore now has to decide, do we want 2 teams? Do we want horse racing? Do we want
So
what,
take
what
that,
do we want?
so that mentality that you have is a very competitive, spirited environment. That's how cities were built. Baltimore was built to compete with Philadelphia, to compete with Richmond, to compete with New York. That's what cities are about. I feel like we need to get that competitive zeal back. And I think if you see what Mark Weller is doing, I've never made him more competitive in my life than the developer of Port Covington. All of these folks that just – we need people that have a competitive spirit. That's how the railroad was built versus canals. That's how our port has become great.
Growth mindset, Sig
Right.
Meidel.
Yeah.
How about that?
Right, and
It's
this
a growth
is
mindset. And we have a scarcity mindset. We have a negativity stream. We got to dump it.
And this is not just us making this stuff up. Any bit of research that you take a look at in terms of what's making cities thrive that are thriving is a growth mindset. It's embracing growth. It's not opposing growth.
But it's also embracing diversity, and it's taking advantage of the people that you have and the resources you have. We have a beautiful Inner Harbor. It's been infiltrated with crime. I live there. It's pissing me off. I'm a citizen. I own a company. I'm doing something about it. And that's that. Who wants to help me? Who wants to get in? And who wants to run to the hills, and like I did as a coward, and I keep using that word, 4 years ago, Damien, I looked out my window, and I saw the fires at Pennsylvania North, and I looked out the other window that's now 414 Light, and I saw the blaze in the sky over on the east side of North Avenue, and I said to myself, man, I'm a big shot, I got a big mouth, I got a big voice, I got all the... I might want to keep my mouth shut right now. Let them, let Mosby, let Stephanie, let the police, let the black and the white and the east, and let that settle down. I'm going to... stay out of it. They'll fix it. They'll always fix it, right? I mean, they always fix it. I mean, we always get fixed.
Patch it up.
They didn't fix it. And now, 4 years later,
and
we need somebody else to fix it.
Come on, explain to me how the west side and the east side of Baltimore for a couple hundred years have been the center of some violence and trouble, and we can't figure that out.
Right.
We've refused to. We know why we refuse to, because we can't. People that look like me have difficulty relating in this town to people that don't look like me. And it's an extreme barrier.
The Mary Bubala thing's incredible. I mean, just from where the media stands and
where do you come down on that?
We want to have we want to have a conversation, and we want our anchors to be out there talking and not reading off a script. And we want to give them the latitude to call audibles. And then when they make a mistake in the huddle, we chop their head off and throw them not only out of the huddle, off the field, out of the stadium, and pretend like we've done something good, or that we've eradicated a racist, or we've gotten a cockroach or a rat out of our cellar, when that's not it. Getting rid of racist, I'm all for that. Getting rid of people that make a mistake, I'm not for that. I don't think that's American.
It distracts us from what's really going on. Like, tell me why Reverend Al Hathaway, he has a great project in West Baltimore. Tell me why we're all not just... What do you need, Al? What do you need, Reverend? What do you need to make that happen?
Right.
Why aren't we all doing that? I mean, he's a unique leader that is capturing a bit of that zeitgeist, so I'm pumped. But, man, the work that guy has to do to clap his hands and get everybody's attention. I guess my point is we
got Mary fired. Now what? Now every person with a microphone is diving under the desk, afraid, like I was afraid 4 years ago, even as a civic leader and a public figure, to speak out. And I've decided 4 years later that that's going to be the death of me and the death of the city. But people not speaking out.
Look, God bless Mary Bubala in the sense she's a tremendous professional. She made a big mistake. She paid a price for us. But that's all a distraction from the idea that there are tons of kids, in West Baltimore, East Baltimore, that can't get a gig, that'll never get a gig. They are, that we have corrupt police officers that are doing terrible things to human beings, black and white. That are polluting the entire goodwill of one of the oldest institutions in the United States, the Baltimore police. That stuff's terrible, and we're over here distracted about Mary Bubala, we should be talking about what are we going to do for those kids. If we're going to be outraged about Mary Bubala's ouster,
but who's the one doing the talking,
right.
though? Is it the media organization allowing anchors to talk? Because that's what this is. I own an FCC license, right? One things I never did to any of my employees, for better or worse, was go in and say, here's the list of the things you can say and the things you can't say. But I had a host say something that I perceived as racist. I pulled them up the way Peter Angelos told me privately and said, if you say that again on the air, I'm going to think you're a racist and it wasn't a mistake. 3 weeks later, said it again, fired him. He's had a wonderful career elsewhere. God bless him.
Right.
But not for me. Not for me, right? Not for me. Because there's a difference between making a mistake and repeatedly telling the same racist joke over again, where I'm like, that's offensive to me.
Let's go
the first
back.
time it's a check. Yeah, I'll check you. The second time you're out of my garden.
Another network will come in and pick her up, and she'll recover and do well, and she'll make a sort of a reparation of her own.
Yes.
I bet. Yeah, she already has.
Oh, has sure.
Okay.
Yes.
But go back.
Not she. He.
Go back
they.
to Damien's point that led to this discussion about what happened to Mary Bubala. In full disclosure, Mary Bubala is a friend of mine.
Full disclosure, Mary Bubala's husband saved my wife's life.
And I've known Mary for 15 or 20 years. And as I've said to folks, I'll just give one comment about that because I think Damien's right. I think it's a distraction. It's not a distraction to Mary because her career was affected. But I think any of us can make a mistake. So it's clear to me.
It strikes the fear in the heart of anyone to not talk about it at all.
Well,
that's what happens. It's like when you take a man's press credential away, you say to everyone else in the room, shut your mouth or you're next. You see him hanging out by the tree? All right, you're next.
Well,
Mary Bubala's hanging out by the tree right now.
What I want.
And the next person that makes a mistake at all, even slightly veers, they're going to get fired. And now all of a sudden, the easiest thing to do to keep your job is what? Shut up.
Yeah.
And that's the easiest thing to do when you were a principal, the easiest way to keep the job was we'll just live with it the way it is because I don't want to rock whoever above me's boat with doing the right thing.
Well, that's a discussion for another day. I've always said I've been pretty good in my career, as have others, at understanding organization chart, who I work for, and how you are able to.
But what do you do when your ethics doesn't align with the person above you?
You leave. You leave. You have to.
Mary Bubala is going to be fine.
Yeah.
Now, what about those
I'm going to come back. That's what I'm coming back to, Damien.
Fair enough.
That's what I think. I think Damien is spot on in that it is a distraction. And the unfortunate part, and this is what we always do, it seems to me, is rather than engage in the important discussion of race and perception that could have evolved from the Mary Bubala question, which she herself says was an inappropriate question. Right. We could have had a real discussion about race because, as Damien alluded to, you can't talk about the city of Baltimore and not talk about underlying issues of race.
Well, it tells me Channel 13 doesn't want to talk about race. That's what it tells me. Okay, and that should tell everybody.
But again, exactly.
They're cowards.
I'm less
WJZ,
worried.
You're cowards.
I'm less worried
and I'll be writing it and saying it forever.
I'm less worried about WJZ.
Well, I'm very worried about WJZ because they do shape public opinion, whether we like it or not.
But there also has been, here's the other dirty little secret about what happened, and I didn't know we were going to spend a whole segment on WJZ. But the other dirty little secret is many people who are outraged at what happened to Mary Bubala are also outraged for the wrong reason. There is an element of race in why many people are outraged at what happened to Mary Bubala. As you know, and this is going to make a lot of people angry out there, I don't think you can talk about the Trump phenomena and not talk about race. Now, I'm not in any way suggesting that every Trump voter is a racist. But as many have said, I will suggest this. If you are a racist, you are a Trump voter. Now, people can figure out.
That's fair enough.
Whatever that means.
I agree with that. I think that's been laid out.
Many people are outraged by Mary Bubala who don't have issues with race because they see it as an issue of fairness and they try to step back, go to 1,000 feet and see what could have been that didn't happen. But there are many who are outraged because of their feelings, again, toward the city. And we've got to, I heard a little bit of outrage in Damien's voice. We've got to break down these barriers. And I come back to
what should we be outraged about?
Well,
Malia,
I thought Malia Cromer also made some really good points last week, in that she said we've got to understand that we've got to reach out beyond what she called those harbor communities, and the ones that we know that are doing the Cantons, the Harbor East, the Fells Point. And let's get out into these. You talked about it earlier, Damien, these incredible, and Senator Mikulski talked about it, rich neighborhoods all over this city. And I continue to maintain, and I use the example over and over and over, that if you want to take Avy out and get a snowball, you don't think twice where you live, walking down the street, getting a snowball, coming back. If I want to grab my grandkids and walk up the street to Opie's and get a snowball, I don't think twice about it. I maintain that in every city neighborhood, moms and dads and grandmoms and granddads have that same dream and that same aspiration. And that's what has to motivate us. And that's why I'm encouraged. We're going to have the new police commissioner on, Michael Harrison.
That's going to be great. He's a bright light, I think.
He seems like a bright light, and that's what you do. What was it Roderick said in his article? It's everything.
He's doing great
stuff. It's not one
now,
thing.
isn't
Dan is doing great
I
stuff.
I texted Dan 2 weeks ago. I said, you're doing the best work
Guys,
of your career right now. I said
we've got to get him on here soon, because
Damien, I want to get back to this, because I think the Mary Bubala and Jay-Z thing, to me, and I'm a free speech guy, and the Trump is speaking out, and we had the incident down in Annapolis, the part where you try to shape opinion or create conversation, in America, we have to be able to talk about it, right? Like, one of the issues here in Baltimore, as you've pointed out, being Caucasian, I'm probably somewhere in the middle as a Hispanic who's been raised as a Caucasian in the melting pot that is Baltimore, but people talking to people when it's discouraged, which I think the Bubala thing is the most glaring thing that's happened post-riot, to say, shut up, we're not going to talk about it. And if we talk about it the wrong way, or if I don't like the way you talk about it, it's going to be the end of your career.
Yeah.
And I live with that Don doesn't like doing Facebook Live. Like, literally, he's old school and protective.
Right.
And I've had a live microphone for 27 years.
That's right.
I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not. And if I made a mistake, I would come back off that mistake and apologize. But I think 27 years, if I were a racist, it would have come out by now. And if I make one mistake and the wrong white-black word comes out in gray and some tone, to portray me as a racist and have people on my lawn 27 years later, after all, I can't imagine how that would feel to be in that house right now. But it hasn't stopped. It can't put fear in people like me to talk about it. And for you to shape this opinion and to tell a story about Baltimore, you can't do it with one arm tied behind your back, because we do have weeds in our garden that are part of the story, and old weeds, that we're trying to say, this is how we become the next Detroit, Cleveland, that story of a place that was the wire, was riots, was empty, was crime-ridden, and in 2028, because we had 2 terms of great leadership and all of these awesome things, and look at this Amazon thing that happened, this Under Armour thing, and these businesses, we salvaged the Orioles. We figured out the race. And we're running the 154th Preakness here 10 years from now. I don't know how that happens, but I know it doesn't happen when you shut people up and when you intimidate people about talking about things.
Great place to stop. When I come back,
I don't want to stop. I want to hear what he has to say.
I would just say you're absolutely right about the media needing to be an open sphere for communication. These wedge issues drive us to our corners. And don't get us back in the ring. And
I want to hear the real. Next time we come back, I want you to think about the 3 or 4 things we're going to be focused and talking about the next 15 months.
We could be Montgomery County in the sense that we could be stuck in traffic all day. We could be on roads, in our cars, pinned down, where taxes are being raised, where folks are intolerant to a diversity point of views. Montgomery County, there was one stat I saw the other day. The Northern Virginia is 97% of the greater Washington economy. That's a staggering number. Montgomery County's contribution is negative 2.9%. Like, that's not a great story.
I think of Montgomery County as being rich. I think of it being Potomac, and I think of it being rich.
That's your perception. They got tons of issues down there. They're going to grapple with their issues. Prince George's County had a ton of issues 10 years ago. They flipped the script like you talk about.
They had a crime issue in PG County.
They had a huge crime issue. They had a huge corruption issue. You notice how those things go hand in hand. It's really interesting.
Absolutely.
Right? They had crime inside and out.
They had no job growth.
Yeah.
I mean, they had limited job growth. It was a great turnaround story. We've talked about our good friend, my good buddy Wayne Curry was part of getting that turned around as county executive. But I think, again, what comes out when we get worked up is this passion. You know,
we all love Baltimore.
We all love Baltimore. I said to you, just in the past 2.5 weeks, my wife and I have been to an incredible French bistro down in the city, a couple blocks from Chez Hugo. Incredible place. And an outstanding Mexican restaurant down on South Street, La Scala.
Oh, yeah, it's legit.
La Scala, legitimate Mexican.
Both just right downtown,
right
too.
down
it's
in
so
the center.
legitimate, he can't pronounce it.
Well, I'm afraid that you and my wife will correct me if I mispronounce it, but I think I got it right. But just incredible things. We're going to talk about the city's vibrancy, how to grow jobs, how to build on the diversity. Great and I want to talk. We can't let Damien get out of here in the next segment because he loves the Preakness. I want to talk Preakness,
okay.
And I want to talk more a little bit about presidential politics because we have a guy here who's been on the road doing that, and I want to hear what it's like for that guy
just
schlepping through Iowa right now. So we'll be back. Baltimore Positive State Fair.
Don Moeller and Damien O'Doherty. I'm Nestor. We are WNST.net AM 1570 at WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.